though this is a part of you, this doesn't fully represent all of you. Paint what you know and what you love, right? All that other stuff will bleed into it, but you have to start with the base of you.
Yo, this is the Inflection Collective. All of us are connected, reflective, real life perspective, respected. The banter, the chit chat, no cap is big facts. So kick back. This here is done there, been there.
It's that time again, another time for another episode of the Done There, Been There podcast, hanging out with you. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for rocking with us. Make sure you tell a friend and tell a friend because we are doing it each and every week. By the way, my name is Mike Hill. I am one of your hosts, and I'm always joined by
Ephraim Salaam. I'm your other host, and today's episode special for me. All the episodes, I say that before every episode, but this one is really special because our guest this time is not only a friend of mine, but a prolific artist, one of the great living testaments to Black excellence and art. It's just out of this world. He's a tremendous talent, a creative, not just an artist, but a director, writer, all of those things you would think you would want to be as an artist, and that's Hebru Brantley.
Hey.
There he is. Look at you, man.
Hey.
That's quite an introduction.
That's good,
Let me
right?
tell you something. You deserve all those accolades.
I appreciate
more,
it, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to blush in a minute, man.
Your art is dope, man.
Thank you.
I'm talking about like collab with Jay-Z, guys like that. Chance the Rapper, you know.
And brands,
Nike,
Adidas, everything.
Adidas, you're doing it. And Bel Air, doing it all. You've been doing it for a minute. When did you know? When did you say, hey, you know what? I'm pretty good at this. This is the stamp that tells me that, you know what? I made it, mama.
I don't know if I made it yet. I've made stuff. I've made messes. No, I'm just kidding. It's just something I wanted to do. I knew I was an artist or creative my whole life. I knew that. I think the one thing I always knew was that I couldn't work for anybody. And it wasn't out of like this empowered thought in my head. It was just like, I'm a horrible employee. like I suck at my job, you know? And so it was just that thing of how do I get to a place where I am my boss, right? And then I can hold myself accountable and just do it was like in school. Like I only excelled at the subjects I liked. You know, everything else.
PE,
lunch. Man,
Nap
I killed
time.
lunch.
Pretty sure you was good in art though.
I was decent. You know, I got B's in art.
How the hell you get B's in art, man?
Because I was a knucklehead, didn't want to listen, and like didn't always do what I was told, what the assignment was. And it wasn't until probably like maybe sophomore year, end of sophomore year of high school, where my art teacher just basically was like, here's the key to the art closet. Go ahead.
The teacher deserved a B because art is what you create, not necessarily, I mean, they can have a vision and say paint this, but if you vision something else.
Yeah, but if you're a teacher and you're like, hey, I need you guys to all draw an apple, and I'm over here drawing like Wu-Tang Clan members.
Oh, yeah, well, maybe eating an apple or something like that.
Right. Like, I'm not doing the assignment. So that was the problem. But I think I just wore her down.
Okay.
And then to the point where she was just like, go in there. There's, and
try what the hell you want to.
Yeah, try it.
What was your first job? Where some of the jobs that you knew that, I can't work for anybody? Like, what helped you realize that, if I can't be my own boss, I'm going to be broke?
I had the number one reality check job as a kid. So I've done everything. But my first job, I was 14 years old, lied on my application. I was working at McDonald's.
Okay.
But I was working weekends, so I had to and I was working mornings. So I had to be up there, I had to get up at 4:30.
You gotta make the biscuits.
Gotta make the biscuits, man. The McMuffins. But they put me on because I said I had allergies, and
You
Did
a good
you
liar,
have
too.
I did, but it wasn't.
You was in there
it wasn't
lying.
like,
Lied about my age,
Because-
lied about my health situation.
because I didn't want to be in the kitchen.
Right,
I didn't want to
right.
be cooking. If they thought I was gonna be sneezing, they weren't gonna put me in the kitchen. But then they put me on the front register. But it was actually, it kind of backfired because when people would come in the morning and women would have all this perfume on, it would kick my butt. So then finally they're like, all right, we gonna put you. It put me in the drive-through. In the the first window when you take the money. That was the best thing, because I would sit up there, I wouldn't take the order, somebody else would, and I just would draw and collect money.
Wow.
All day.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was like, but again, it still was working at McDonald's, right? It wasn't fun.
Right.
So, but no, it was just doing that, and I did that for 2 years, and having all the homies, I had a few homies that played, high school ball, ended up going to the league, and they would come in, during camps and stuff like that, or after camp, and I'm like, man, they're following their path. I'm working at McDonald's. And it weighed on me always, and it was just always that thought of like, I gotta get the hell out of here. I gotta figure this. I was still in high school, but it was still just like, having those homies early that knew exactly what they wanted to do. And I always knew what I wanted to. I knew I just wanted to be an artist. I didn't know what that fully meant, right? Because I didn't have a clear, shining example of like what an artist was fully. Because there's so many different facets, right, to art, right? It could be, fine art. It could be graphic design, a comic book artist. Like I loved and entertained all of those things. Architect, but it was just that thing of like, I'm creative. I want to create, but then it's that also that messaging within a Black household of like,
Right.
That's not a stable career.
You can't
that's
get no
not-
W-2
Right.
with that. You
Right.
need to.
I was more supported as a guy who in high school probably averaged 2 rebounds and 0.3 points a game. I was more encouraged to pursue a basketball career
Because that's what they saw.
because that's what they knew.
That's what they saw.
100%.
I actually want to talk about that. I want this to kind of be the theme of the episode because I know about your background. Your mom encouraged your art. Dad didn't as much. He encouraged you to be great at what you did. Obviously, you saw success early on, but sometimes people don't see your craft the way you see it, or the art or the gift that you have the way you see it. How do you block out some of the noise in order to pursue your passion?
I don't know how to advise other people. I think for me, stubbornness really was my ally. I refused to listen to. I just felt like didn't nobody know what the hell they was talking about. But that was in everything though. Like that was even, I get that was life lessons.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
we don't
wasn't
know what
just
you're talking
art.
about.
That was
everything.
everything.
But primarily within that, where I think it really just took having one person believe, and that person who believed was the closest person to me.
Was your
right?
mom?
Was my mother.
Yeah.
Right. Once you have that, can't nobody tell you shit, really.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you have the passion and if it's there, right? All you need is one person to kind of help, boom, and then it's 2 people, then it's 3, and then it's 4, right? And then you can convert people and make them realize. But I would just look around at either family members or people I knew, and my family was lower middle class. Coming up, I come from a huge family. None of the men in the family on my mother's side really made anything of themselves. So it's all the women. But then looking at them and some of their husbands, right? And, these are all Black people. And I'm like, well, shit, he's a lawyer. He grew up in a time where I'm sure, like, that wasn't even, what I mean? Like, the thought it wasn't necessarily feasible and it's an uphill battle. So he did that, right? Why can't I do, what I want to do? And, it was just these little moments. And I remember one moment was, and I forget the artist's name, forgive me, but my father, my dad was a weekend dad, right? And so, sometimes.
What does that mean? What does a weekend dad mean?
A weekend dad means I'm with my dad on the weekend and he got to figure shit out because, you know what I mean? It's like, sometimes I'm interrupting plans, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so that meant that, sometimes instead of it being me and him, I was the fifth wheel on, dates and things
The
with
fifth wheel? How many women did your mom?
not the fifth. What's it? The third.
The third wheel.
Thank you.
Hey,
sometimes
this
it was
your
the
auntie
fifth by the end of
Sarah
the weekend. We talking about
Like the
we going from Friday to Sunday.
Did she bring her kids?
I'm about the fifth wheel.
The fifth wheel.
But I would have to go, with my dad on. He would bring dates on our time. Or I'd end up going to house parties that I was damn sure not invited to or not supposed to be at, to friends' houses, and end up in a bedroom somewhere, and like
watching TV,
right? While the grown folks downstairs partying and stuff like that. But one time he took me. There was an artist in Chicago who was a comic book artist, self-made guy, comic, like a graphic designer, early adapter to a lot of these forms of art. And we went to his house, and he was making comic books. Now, they weren't really they was, at the time I'm Marvel, I'm DC, I'm X-Men, I'm Batman, all those things. He was doing stuff more geared towards the Black experience, and it was a bit more adult, but it was just the fact that like this dude was an artist. Like he made it. He's living in this loft. This is cool. And that was like one of the first times I was like, I can, like, and in my mind, I'm young, I'm arrogant. I'm like, I can draw better.
Yeah.
Right? If he can do this.
Well, sometimes you just got to see it, right?
You have to see it
for
you
yourself.
have to see it. So that was an important thing. But yeah, man, it was,
I think this is because this is the Done There Been There podcast.
Yeah.
We've all kind of been in that where people have a trend. So I guess athletically, always gifted. People saw you basketball, football, or whatever.
Yeah.
But you always had a mind outside. One of the things I love about you, you've always had a mind outside of sports.
Yeah, for me, I started playing sports late. So I was into all kinds of stuff. I'm a gamer, like comic books, all of these things. And I started playing sports in high school, 9th grade. And that was it. Like I had nothing before then. No Pop Warner, no rec league basketball. And so for me, I was just playing because my friends were playing.
right.
Just wanted to hang out with them. And as I began to get better, I was like, oh, colleges started to come around. I was like, right? Okay, I can, like in our family, there was no you're not going to college. Everybody, and my mother got her PhD, my father has his master's, my sister, brothers, everybody went to college. That's just what it was. Right. And so I was like, oh, okay, I can get a scholarship. I can go off to play. And then when I got to college, after I started my first game, I remember my dad was like, I mean, you might be able to make a living out of this, right? Then I kicked it into overdrive. When I got drafted 7th round, that other mechanism that we're talking about kicked in. Because I'm like, the chances of me making the team are slim already. And the chances of me sticking and staying as a 7th round draft pick, it's very low.
Right.
So what else? How can I use this to do something else? And from the beginning, even though I started my first year, my first 10 years in the league, every offseason, I was jumping into something else. I started being on the radio my rookie year. Then followed that with radio and TV in every market I did. When I came home in the off season, I would come do ESPN or just do these shows. And this is when there was no 3,000 sports networks.
Right.
It was 3.
Right.
Right? And so you had to like figure out a way to get in. I'm an offensive lineman. Nobody wants to hear from offensive linemen. But my mentality was, look, I don't know how long I'm going to be playing this, but I like other stuff, which turned into film, producing film. My brother, best friend, Dion, was like, I got an idea for a movie. We took it and ran with it. I never wanted it just to be about this thing, right? Like you're starting in the NFL. You're focusing on, people have said this. Other players have said, man, you a dope player, man, but you focus on too much other stuff.
Yeah.
You just got to focus on this.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this could be going tomorrow.
Sure.
Like literally none of the players.
Gotta have something, yeah.
None of the players can say how long they're going to play for who. Like they don't have control of that.
Right.
You can sign a brand new contract and get cut the next year. We see it happen all the time. And I was like, well, I don't want to put all of my livelihood in someone else's hands.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm going to do the things that I enjoy doing. So when I retired, I just walked right into broadcasting and producing film, the things that I had been doing all while I was playing, because I'm like, look, I'm not just the sum of one thing. Right. There are multiple things that make up who we are as people.
Right.
Whether others can see that or not, that's not up to me.
Sure.
Right? Like, I can see it.
Sure.
You can see it. You can see it. Right? Like, your journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You growing up and them telling you, you saying what? I want to be on TV.
I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be a TV host. I wanted to be on the news. And growing up in Alabama.
From Bessemer?
From Bessemer,
How?
Alabama. It's like, man, how you going to do this?
They barely had TVs out there.
A world away. They can't see it. So it wasn't until I actually saw somebody on the air who looked like me, who had my name, that I felt like a guy named Michael Hill. He actually became my uncle because I married his niece later on in life, just kind of ironically. And I saw him on television. I was like, well, he can do this. Why can't I do that? Well, I couldn't do it at the time. So I couldn't talk. I'm from the country talking like this, cuz I ain't gonna be able to go on television like this, man. You know what I'm saying? You can't talk like this and then sometimes
you can.
Now I can.
You can. Now you definitely can.
I make a living now.
Right.
I be Shannon Sharp now. I be Charles Barkley.
Yeah,
do you notice that I worked so hard to change my dialect, my enunciation, and every star in sports right now can't speak.
Can't talk.
They can't talk. But anyway, I digress, man. Going back to you, man. With your passion, following that passion, there are other obstacles outside of doubt. Sure. You know, taking care. You had I think you had a daughter at the time, your son at the time, young son at the time. You had to take care of your siblings as well.
Sister,
So financially and everything, all these obstacles in the way. Was there ever a time where you was like, man, maybe I should try to pursue something else that's actually going to pay these bills and not my art, and put this on hold? And how did you overcome that if you had those doubts?
I don't think I had doubts for sure, but there was no other option. You know, that was the one thing. Like when my parents died, like all my parents died, parents being like my mother, my biological father, and then my stepfather, right? All within a 2-year window.
Oof.
Right? And I mean, my mother and stepfather were 6 months apart when they passed. For me, it's weird because when that happened, I was just having this conversation yesterday, as a matter of fact. I didn't grieve. I just kicked into, I have to get it done. That was it, which is not necessarily the best, most therapeutic thing to do, right?
Yeah.
But because I had so many people count, because it was not only my brother, my sister, it was my son. My mom took care of her younger brother. Like every family's got that one uncle.
Right.
That was the uncle, right? And so I had to take care of him. My aunt.
How old were you at the time?
I was 27.
Wow. And you took on all that responsibility.
Yeah. My aunt, who, you know, was kind of down bad, you know, helped take care of her. So I had all this, right? And I just refused to drop the ball. And so that was my mindset, where it was like, yeah, there were days, tears, you know, like pain, physical pain. But it was just the thing of like, nah, I want this. I've wanted this for so long. I'm going to have this.
Now, I look at your art. It's eclectic. It's very I don't know the words to describe art. You know what I'm saying? But it's progressive in a sense, and I love that it speaks to our culture. You know, like your flyboy character and everything. I mean, it's like so unique. Did some of your pain though, because as artists, sometimes I know, like when I'm going through my comedy right now, my comedy comes from my pain, and I can speak that on stage. Did some of your pain, the things that you were going through, how was that reflected in your art?
Well, I think early on when I first started, the work that I was doing is far and wide from the work I do now, right? It was completely different. And I think the best advice I got, you know, there was a lot of pain and there was angst, and it wasn't just personal, it was just the idea of being black in America, right? And speaking towards those facts, speaking towards history, injustices, all of these things. And the best advice I got was, though this is a part of you, this doesn't fully represent all of you. Paint what you know and what you love, right? All that other stuff will bleed into it, but you have to start with the base of you. And so, you know, looking at that, it was like the things that brought me joy, right, were, you know, were films, was science fiction, were these narratives, these stories, was comics and manga and anime and all these things that I grew up on that like I had to fight for, right, to fight to love, because where I grew up, that wasn't accepted socially, right? So that was a part of me that I always had to hide, right? It's like you're a dual person when you come from my neighborhood, right? You're the person you are, you can be in the confines of your own place, and then you're the person you are in the streets with your friends. None of my friends at the time were with any of that shit. It was seen as, you know, like, man, if you draw, if you are in it, it was gay, right?
Yeah.
It was gay. I mean, gay.
Soft, all of that stuff.
Right? Because I want to better myself, and it's so bass backwards and it's crazy, but it's like that sense of like over masculinity, right? That you had to have, like
toxic
masculinity, very, very toxic in the hood. So that's what I was fighting. But sound to say, like, you know, with everything, I just kind of refused to. I looked at my friends at the time, right? None of them were really happy, and even if they were in the moment, right, it was momentarily, like it was just bliss or glee, but long term, I'm like, my dude, you work at Walgreens, and it's no knock to people who have to do that, but some of these people didn't really have to do that, but it was a matter of like accepting just what was given in their circumstances, not trying to achieve more. None of my friends in my circle for that time aspired to be or to rise above their station. None of them. And you know that saying of like, you are your 3 or 5 best friends.
You
right?
are. That is 100% the fact.
And so I looked at that, and again, this is before I knew that phrase, before I realized that, and it was just that thought in my head of like, man, I'm not these guys.
Right.
I love these guys, but you know, I love them enough to understand that I gotta leave these guys to get what I need to do. You know, get what I need, what I want, and evolve. And so that's what was happening. And so I left. You know, I was in Atlanta for, you know, time when I was in school and just traveled, hopped on couches in New York, living here in LA, couch hopping, couch surfing, but like studying, right? Getting to meet people that were doing the things I wanted to do so I could see it, right? Because if you can see it, then you can just manifest it, right? And so that was the goal. So around the time my mom, you know, and Pops had passed, I was just right at that step of like, you know, or taking that next step to becoming my own person and carving that name for myself, right? Hadn't really done it yet, but I was right there. And so it just was like, I've worked too hard to go back and to settle for mediocrity, basically. And if that means that we all have to struggle for a little bit, we're just gonna struggle for a little bit.
And sometimes it's just in your gut.
It's
you
in
just
there.
know it's gonna happen,
100%.
right? You just there. You got to believe in yourself.
I think you said something very profound there. Like most people, especially today, they could be on that train working toward their goal and what they see. And the trip can take longer than they expect. And the people around them who are waiting to get to the destination, whether it be somebody they're taking care of or a significant other, friend, peer group, the negativity coming from that, right? Oh, man, you tripping, man. This is taking forever, man. And so many of us listen. And get off the train at the next stop. Why would you get off before your stop? And just in life, like just hearing you say, look, we might have to struggle a little bit longer, right? It's not what we want,
right?
But trust me, we're gonna get to our stop. And I think the message to the young people are, because our age group, we come from a completely different era. Right? Like this was like a bootstrap, tie it up, go get it. number one, we didn't have the information. We didn't have access to the information that we have now. Yeah. If you wanted to learn how to do something, be an artist, be on TV, whatever that is, produce, write, you had to tangibly go try to find someone that does it, ask questions. There was no, hey Alexa, hey Siri, hey, how do I?
YouTube video,
Google. There was none of that. Right. So we come from an era where you got to go out. If you want it, you got to go get it. Right? You kill what you eat. You eat what you kill. Yeah. Now, there's so much information. The bad part of that is you can easily get discouraged and swayed. Yeah. Right? Opposed to when you're in it, you like, man, I didn't come too hard. I didn't work too hard. I'm not about to get off now. I done gave everything. We in here eating beans and rice and water. Yeah. And I'm not going to throw that all away.
Lots of spaghetti.
Lots of spaghetti. Right? So just having that mentality. Like, and how do you put that in young people? Yeah. Like my nephews, man, 23 and 27. I'm like, bruh, my wife and I helped raise them. And he'll, Uncle E, today, right now, 27-year-old, Uncle E, I was thinking I wanted to do so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm like, hey, man, I don't know how to do that. But guess what? You have a computer in your hand. Well, what do I do? The question you just asked me, type it into, right. You don't even, just say it into the phone. Right. Oh, okay. They're so used to having it there, they don't even know how to tap into it.
Yeah. Well, even with AI and everything that's going on or whatever. So having said that, passing it on to the future generations, because we were a bootstrap type of mentality, the way we were raised, what we can pass along to the future generations are the gifts and the lessons that we learn to make sure that they don't have to go through those things, even though they have more at their disposal. So now that your kids are getting older and you've made it to this point and you got other people looking up to you, maybe have a nephew or nieces or whatnot, what are you passing along to future generations to make sure that they don't have to go through what you went through, and to ensure that they continue to follow their passions no matter what the obstacles are?
That's a loaded question. I think I'll just use the case of like my nephews. They've grown up seeing what I've done, right? Like just like my son. Like my son kind of grew up. I always say he grew up inside the tornado, right? And then finally it stopped spinning and there was some bright skies, right? But I think my nephews growing up seeing and coming to shows and things like that. Now they're aspiring artists, and the one thing that I teach them, because I think one of the things that's so lost now is work ethic. Right? Like I feel like with the accessibility of social media and all of these things online, and now even AI to a greater degree, right? Even when it comes to education, right? If I can get a paper online, that's done for me, it's what are you learning? What are you, exactly. Yep. And so for them, and even my son, right? Just really emphasizing you gotta work for it, right? Like the shit is not going to, especially when you're an artist and a creative, right? Whether that's any form of the arts, if you're a musician to a filmmaker to a writer, like, this, like writing is rewriting, right?
That's exactly what it is.
And I always use the term with them, like, you have to fail your way to success. And I say that all the time, right? Because I am all of my mistakes. My success comes from all of the things, all of the falls, the failures, the paintings gone wrong, right? I don't get to that one that's right without these 9 that weren't, right? And so instilling in them that they have to really work for it. And it's not easy work. I know when people think artists, no, like this shit is still work, right? Like there are days when I hate this shit, like I am tired of painting. I am tired of, but pushing through to persevere to then see like the end result, which is so gratifying, right? I did that. right? I went through all of that to do that, right? It's no different than football, right? You got to pound your way up the field to score, right? And all them, grueling hits that you take, along the way, all them downs to finally get there and to feel like, man, we
did it.
We did it, you know? And that's what I push them towards. So, with them, man, I watch these little dudes and again, they get the game from me now, right? So I can help them, I still want them to fail, right? I just don't want them to fall as far and as hard.
You're going to be there to catch
right.
them. Yeah, they won't fall as,
But, watching them grind with more of a sense of purpose. And what I mean is that it's a more direct trajectory for them now, because I can kind of guide them like, no, don't go, that little path, don't, no.
Yeah,
to stay here, do this, book a left up, and it's really, it fills me with such joy because the stuff that they're creating at their age it blows my mind.
Here's the advantage that they have, and you talked about the advantage that growing up you probably didn't have. You didn't see it early on, until you saw that one artist, and then all of a sudden, voila! I can actually touch this. This is achievable. And now that you have your nephews and your son and anybody that's in the art, they can actually touch you. They see success. It's right in their own home, right in their own backyard. But the fact that you're not just giving it to them and making them work for it in a sense, but still carrying them along the way. And when they do fail, I mean, I think that's commendable. We do a segment on here. It's unfiltered, straight up, raw, uncut, just you're straight your mind. It's called it's the Done There, Been That podcast. So is there ever been a time where you've done there, been that, something that changed your perspective on life that kind of helps you to grow and become the person that you are today?
Say more.
So, where there's a life-altering moment where for your craft and the things we've been talking about, for me, it was my therapy. Okay. For me, it was almost losing everything that I ever loved. So that was my done there, been that moment that changed my life when it comes to my personal and my professional life and the way I think about things. Was there ever a moment for you?
I mean, there's a bunch of moments, I think. I mean, we've kind of talked about one. I think losing my parents, right, was that seminal moment of like, I can't go back. I can't go left or right. I have to go forward. I mean, that's one that really stands out. I think, the moment before that was, I had my son really early. I was still in college, right? And my plans were not to be a visual artist at that time. My plan was I'm going to go work for Viacom, MTV, and work my way into, film and TV. But it was just the thing of like, I needed to be present for him. So, I mean, I can't be in another state or city, right? I have to be here. And I think that if I'm going to be here, then I got to work my tail off and figure something else out, you know? And so making those pivots for him is kind of what led me to a lot of this, right? I don't have Flyboy without my son, I don't have a lot of things without my sons. That's my biggest blessing, and the number one course corrector in my life, was him. And obviously other events, again, my mom and, other things, but I would say that moment is what led me to all of this.
How do you handle being successful, being busy, and being a dad, being a husband, right? It's a lot. It's a lot. Like people there's this mythical thing out there that people try to attain. It's called work-life balance.
Yes. It's a unicorn.
Right?
It's a
like
Pegasus.
I haven't met anyone who's captured this magical thing called work-life balance. So how is it? And your son is older and you have two beautiful daughters, married. How do you deal? How do you try to prioritize? Because I mean, you're all over the globe. With your art.
I mean, honestly, it's no secret recipe. Like I said, I had a weekend dad, right? My mom remarried by the time I was 9, right? She was in a relationship since I was 8. Quickly thereafter, became pregnant with my brother. A few years later, my little sister came. I'm the oldest. I was the test dummy. You know how it goes, right? When you're the oldest, parents don't know what the hell they doing,
don't.
and you just you out there, right? You out there, and they get it right. You know, they get it a little better each time, right? They figure it out. And so for me, you know, there was a lot I felt like I didn't get from my parents. I love my parents, but there was a lot I felt like I didn't get, and I always wanted. And so, you know, even with my son, you know, starting with him, but now especially with the girls, like all I do is just, I'm hyper focused that when I walk through that door, I am present. I don't give a damn how tired I am. Like, they don't want to hear that shit. They don't care about my day. They care that I made it back from my day, right? And they care about the rest of their day. And it's, you know, kids, I mean, like, kids are selfish. No, I'm just kidding. but no. But seriously, like, you know, it should be about them.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I make it, you know, and just I'm always mindful that, like, my time when I'm home is their time. And then if they're busy doing something and I can eke out a little bit of time for myself, I do. But it's their time, you know, because I just, you know, I'm always thinking about my eulogy, right? And how I'm eulogized, I should say, right?
Okay.
And I want my kids to eulogize me like I was God himself, right? Like, he was the greatest. No, but seriously, like, I love my kids. You know, they are the most important thing, and I want them to always know that. But I don't always need to say it. I want to show it.
There you go.
That part.
Sometimes showing it is better than much better than actually saying it. Before we let you go, man, it's good that you're being recognized so young for your art. It's also great that you're being recognized while you're still here, because a lot of artists
don't get it. We don't get it,
after
man.
they don't get the flowers until after they're here. I actually
flowers,
saw something on Instagram that said, buy art from living artists. Not necessarily the dead ones don't need the money. You know what I mean? So I think that was super important that you're being recognized right now, and people are so in tune with your art, man. Once I'm able to afford it,
Cut it out.
cut
it out.
I mean, there's such a demand.
See,
I'm just saying, you know,
you got
like
him started.
Look, all I'm saying is, look, he's my friend. All right,
Okay.
I got one of his sweatshirts on now.
Yep.
Where can people go?
Yes.
What's the website?
Well, first of all, I'm the easiest person to find. I'm 6'8", I'm black, and my name is Hebru. All right?
You are huge,
So
bro.
I'm easy to find. But you can go to HebrewBrantley.com.
Yeah.
On there at the shop.
They got the store. They got all
store,
the art, the
you know,
sculptures,
the merch, the figures, prints, etc. You know, sometimes things go fast.
Sometimes.
I just want some, like, I got a staircase that got this big wall, and it just needs.
Come
like,
to the studio.
Okay, well,
Do what Ephraim does. Come to the studio and just take whatever you can take that you can fit in your car.
I'd be in there stealing, man. I'd be stealing. I really do.
Man,
I'm
don't
sorry.
threaten me.
I'd be
I'm
stealing.
definitely coming there, bro.
I'm a bad friend. I will go in there and I will harass this man. I'm like,
Ephraim will
He
go
said,
in
"Come
boxes.
in."
He'll be like, "What's
I will
over here?"
literally,
Yeah.
I'll be inside of the box. He'd be like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?"
And you just go in there and just
I'm
like
crazy,
beefing this man.
I'm crazy.
I'm coming in
I'm
there with a
sorry.
U-Haul truck, bro, with a long bed, man. I'm telling you, bro. I need that big long painting, bro. My brother, I just met you today, man, but I am so happy that I'm in your presence, man.
Oh, man,
You're an icon already, man. You're a genius.
Appreciate that.
You're wonderful at what you do. Best of luck with everything. How can people, like you say, Hebru Brantley, how can they follow you on IG?
Hebru Brantley on everything. Hebru Brantley across the board. It's Hebru.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brantley, man.
Brantley.
My man.
Yeah.
Pleasure,
For sure.
man. Thanks for
Thank you
hanging out
guys
with
for
us.
having me.
I appreciate you, man.
For sure.
Absolutely. All right, that's another edition of the Done There, Been There podcast. Thank you once again for hanging out with us every week. We will continue to bring you wonderful guests, entertainers, artists, whatnot, and giving you these life lessons each and every week.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, Inflection Network on YouTube. Let us know how we're doing, and we'll see you next time.
All right.